After day one of NFL free agency, what are the Chicago Bears' biggest remaining needs? Let's talk about that right here, right now. What is going on, y'all? Phosphorus all back at it with another video talking some NFL here to talk about the Chicago Bears. So if you're a Bears fan, guys, please do hit that subscribe button. Look, I'm dedicated, folks. We're not at the home office. I'm on the road, but we got to keep it going. We got to, put out the content because there's way too much to talk about. So we are going to go ahead and keep it pushing here. And we're talking about the remaining needs for the Bears after day one of NFL free agency, in which they made three major signings. We all know about that. Don't need to go into much detail here. Drew Dalman, Dio Adebayo, and then, of course, Grady Jarrett. So let's talk about the positions I believe that are, sort of the remaining positions of need for the Bears in order. Let's hop into it. All right, before we begin here, real quick, just want to preface my comments by saying that the Bears don't have a lot of salary cap space remaining after their signings from day one, but they can certainly do some things like cut players or restructure contracts to create more flexibility. So not really going to talk about the players they should be targeting specifically because, again, we just don't know the cap situation until that happens. I'll talk about the specific positions, if you will, all right? So the first position that they need to focus on is going to be the wide receiver position now, all right? Wide receiver position, specifically talking about the wide receiver 3 spot, because all we have on the roster right now are DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and Tyler Scott. That is definitely not enough. We know that. Keenan Allen most likely will not be brought back because he's a unrestricted free agent, and of course, we might not have the money for it. And so to me, you got to add to this room. You got to get a wide receiver 3. In Detroit, you had Amon-Ra with Ben Johnson. You had Jameson Williams, and then, you had a Tim Patrick as your wide receiver 3. So you don't need anybody sexy. You don't need a big name. You just need a competent receiver, good hands, good blocker, somebody obviously that Ben Johnson likes. So certainly, I expect them to add to the wide receiver room. You can do it in both, in free agency and in the draft, and that is definitely a need. You can't go in, obviously, with just 3 receivers. Ben Johnson needs more guys, and he will get more guys. So the first biggest position of need is going to be the wide receiver 3 spot. The second one is going to be, I believe, more depth at the DN spot. So obviously, you got Dio now in the building, all right? You have Montez Sweat, who's already there. But then behind them, you virtually just have Austin Booker, right? And so, you need to have more pieces in there, more rotational pass rushers that can come in because you just have your starters. You don't have anybody behind them. And so, to me, this is really where I feel like they're going to use the draft to go ahead and address this position. I think it's going to come more from the draft than free agency. But certainly you can look in free agency as well, but it just needs to be addressed, folks. There's just not enough bodies there, just not enough depth there. And if a guy gets hurt, and you're in a really bad spot at that point. So D-end definitely needs to be looked at as far as more depth pieces at that spot. And then same thing with the other side of the line, which is the offensive line. So you have your starters, great. They're set, right? But behind them, who do you have? You only have Ryan Bates for now and Kieran Abagaji, your second-year offensive lineman that you drafted this past offseason. You need more backups, right? You need more depth. And now, knock on wood, you hope the O-line stays healthy the entire season, but we know that usually never, not never, that usually doesn't happen all of the time. And so you want to be able to have that depth at those premium positions as far as the offensive line and be able to supplement these guys who are a little bit older, like a Joe Thuney, if you will, and be able to get some depth in there. So to me, another position where I feel like we're going to address this more in the draft now than in free agency. Like for wide receiver, I think we can address that in free agency. D-line, O-line, depth, I think that's going to come in the draft. All right, so that's the third one. Fourth, the running back room, right? Running back room, and I say fourth because, look, we have Swift, who's not going anywhere. He's not getting cut, guys. And then we have Roschon Johnson. Well, I could use another back in this room. More specifically, I'd want like a power back. That would be nice to have here. Now, will they get that in free agency? Maybe, maybe not, because you got some veteran backs out there and, they might cost a little bit. But certainly you can get some guys on the cheap end. There's a lot of backs out there. Guys have specifically seen me talk about Nick Chubb, Raheem Mostert, Kareem Hunt. Like, there's backs out there. And I think I want to add just one more power back, a short yardage goal line type of back here, because Swift is, again, he's not a 3-down three down back, if you will. And Roshan, he's solid, but I just feel like he leaves a little bit more to be desired here. So I'd love to get another back in here. Now, look, obviously we got the draft as well. Everybody's talking about Ashton J.T. and the Bears are using the number 10 overall pick to get him. Certainly a possibility here. Not saying that's not, but I do think we need another running back. And then finally, number 5, tight end. I think we need another tight end. You got Cole Kmet as your starter. You signed Durham Smythe, but Smythe is a blocker. He's not, a great tight end too. I think you could use another tight end. Now, this is where I kind of go, do you want to develop a guy and draft him, right? Get a guy in the draft, or do you want to just sign another veteran tight end to complement, a Cole Kmet, and hopefully goes much better than it did for Gerald Everett. But you still do need one. Again, if they go into the season with just Kmet and Smythe, fine. Maybe it could work. Hopefully Kmet stays healthy, but I think you could use another one. So overall, folks, those are the 5 positions that I feel like, you got to go ahead and you got to add to them. So again, just to recap for you guys, we need a wide receiver 3. We need depth on the defensive end spot. We need depth on the offensive line spot. We need a third running back. We need a third tight end. All right, so all of these, I believe, are the biggest needs. Now, again, we're sitting in a pretty good spot here. Love what Poles and Ben Johnson have done. But you asked me, what are the remaining needs? There you have it. So let me know what you guys think. Did I miss anything you guys would have said that, would have been part of this? Let me know down below in the comments. As always, guys, appreciate you, and thanks for watching.